Hi, welcome to Algebra with Mr. Vo. In this digital unit plan, I will be discussing how to interpret the structures of expressions. This is going to be the link to my teacher site. And going down a little bit, this is going to be for 7th to ninth grade students that are learning algebra. So this is my unit summary. In this lesson, students will learn the connection between words and algebraic expressions. In the first lesson, students will be handed an anticipation guide that will assess their prior knowledge of expressions. After they have completed the guide, they will share it with another student to discuss their answers and beliefs. Then preceding that, they will be listening to a lecture and a presentation that I have provided for them. In the next lesson, every student will be handed two card sets. One card set will contain a list of algebraic expressions, and the other will contain a list of describing the expressions. Students will be asked to match phrases and algebraic expressions to see which ones are similar. Students will also need to do an iPad activity where they will be showing the class how to solve a specific problem through a recorded video, somewhat like this one. This lesson will help assess individual comprehension. And finally, in the last lesson, students will participate in a whole class discussion where students will group up and each group will be handed a mini whiteboard and a marker. I will say a phrase that is equal to a certain expression, and each group will write on their whiteboard along with the expression to justify how they got their answer. At the end of the lesson, students will need to redo their anticipation guides to correct their prior mistakes to show what they have learned. Moving on, this is the California content standards that it addresses. These are just all the other ones that it talks about. So for the student learning goals, first, students will learn to recognize equivalent expressions. Second, students will practice working in groups and using their critical thinking skills. Third, students will learn to understand the distributive laws of multiplication and division over addition. Here are some big ideas. What is a mathematical expression? How can we interpret complicated expressions by viewing one or more of their parts as a single entity? Meaning, how can we simplify this even more? Third, how can we use the structure of an expression to find a way to rewrite it? Moving on to our first lesson, this is going to be the teacher lecture. This is going to be the presentation that I will provide for them. So, as you can see, there's going to be a pre-quiz right here. On their guided notes, they will follow along. They will answer true or false for this quiz, and they will need to explain why they believe so. Going further, so this is going to be some basic vocabulary that they will need to learn. They will need to know the definitions of a variable, expressions, and like terms. Those are going to be very important later on in our chapter. Next, they will go step by step. This is going to show them step by step how to figure out what equivalent expressions are and how to see what like terms are to combine them. There's also going to be an introduction video that I'll provide for them from Khan Academy. That will just some basic learning for them to see. Not going to go into that right now. And here's a little graphic organizer that I got for them. Continuing on, I've provided a few examples for them so that they could see how to do it in different ways. This is another video from Khan Academy that is going to show them. Moving past that. So for the first example that I provided, which expressions are equivalent to 2x plus, in the parentheses, x plus 5? They will need a, there are four answers and they will need to see which one they think is correct. And then after that, we will go over it again as a class after they have filled it out. Same with this one, except this is a little deeper into it. They will need to explain in words why the following statement is true or not. So it's going to be 5x plus 10y equals to 15xy. Clearly that is false, but as they're learning, they may not know that. The last example that I provided would be a tougher one. It goes, the Janae and Bridget are working on the same problem, but they got different answers. Decide who is correct. This is going to show you a step-by-step from Janae and from Bridget to see which ones and see how they did it and to see who got it right. And at the end of my lecture, I will be giving them an exit slip. It's just quick 5 problems that they're going to need to do on a piece of paper to see if they've learned anything throughout this part. Over here, I have downloaded a guided notes for them that they will need to download as well. It's just going through everything that I've just talked about, vocabulary, their step by step. They will need to write all that down. For the graphic organizer, they're going to need to draw the pyramid that was presented to them and fill in the blanks, different examples, and last but not least, the exit slip. Moving on to the next lesson, go to their iPad activity. So right here is going to be a file that they're going to be able to download for their Show Me activity. This is going to be it right here. So this is just some basic directions for them. They're going to be choosing 3 different equivalent expression problems. They'll need to solve each problem to show the equivalent expression. On Show Me, they're going to basically just record them doing it. They're going to need to show all of their steps to be clear and concise about every little detail. After that, they're going to save the video and email me a copy of the final video. Right here is just a rubric, a standard rubric to show what I'm looking for while they're doing this. Okay, so now going past that, we're going to go to my graphic organizer. So I talked about in the beginning how I was going to be giving them an anticipation guide. This is what it's going to look like when I give it to them. There's just some simple directions. Before reading chapter 1, decide whether you agree or disagree with the statement and mark it in the before reading section. When we are done covering chapter 1, decide whether you agree or disagree with the statement and mark it in the after reading section, along with the reason why you believe your answer is correct. Now that reason why is the most important part. I don't want them to just be able to write true or false, but I want them to be able to explain their reasoning behind each and every one of their answers. Now, once it's done, this is what it's going to be looking like when it's filled. This is just, see how in the after reading section, everything is described for them. And this will be the scoring guide about what I am looking for when I'm going through their anticipation guides. I want to see that they know they've completed it and they can answer all the reasons why, and they show that they can know how to recognize equivalent expressions. Okay, so next we will be discussing their assessments for this. So right here is the little assessment plan that I've created for them. For their entry level, it will be the pre-quiz to assess their prior knowledge. For their formative, we will be creating flashcards that will need to put down all the vocabulary given to them and others they may see in the chapter and examples. The exit slips to assess daily where they're at. They will eventually take a 15-minute formal quiz based on what they have learned. And lastly, the anticipation guide that I've presented as well. For the summative, they will be given a unit project. Students will be given a project that will require them to explain a tough problem in letter form. We'll talk more about that in a bit. And also a test that covers everything that was taught in this lesson. So moving forward, I also wrote down for the formative assessment, you need to create a fake username and password for student login. After student login, search up equivalent expressions with Bryant Vo in the quiz title, then register for my class. After all is completed, go to the class sections and take the quiz. So let's just go there right now. Okay, student site login. I've already made one, so I'll just go Janae Jones and then some password. Submit. So one untaken quiz, that's going to be the quiz that I provided. Just go over there and then they will need to take this equivalent expressions with Bryant Vo, be right there, and they can take this quiz. We won't get into all that right now, but so going back here, we can go look at the summative assessment that I provided for them. So this is just going to be their rubric for their unit project. The students will be given a problem in which they will need to justify. Students will need to write a letter as if they were teaching another student about equivalent expressions. The letter must be well written and compelling. A hint I gave them was that I would actually try to explain this to another student and see if they understand it. If they can understand it, then I'll be able to understand it. And then I'll be grading them on basically 2 things: their content that they provide and their appearance. To get the best score, students will need to write a compelling explanation that was easy to understand, and their letter must look appealing and shows their organized thought and is also easy to follow. The rest I will leave you to look at later. Going back, we're going to go to the unit resources. So these are just some websites and stuff that I think will be helpful for students to learn. Khan Academy has a bunch of practice that they can go check out. Math is Fun is also a really good website for to practice different expressions. This video right here is by Kirk Weiler. He's going to be going over commutative, distributive, and associative laws with expressions in case students may have some problems with that. IXL is another great website. CK12 is the same. And Shmoop contains videos and examples that can further help students practice interpreting them. Also, IXL is another website. It has an online exam that students can try to take to prepare for my exam or my quiz, perhaps. Going back up, that is going to be my digital unit plan. Thank you for listening.